If you're struggling with feeling out of control with food, binge eating, emotional eating, yo-yoing weight, yo-yo dieting, thinking about food all the time, then you've probably come across the well-meaning advice of, why don't you just eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full? And it can be extremely frustrating, if not anxiety inducing. And I wanted to make this video just to shed some light on the fact that it's not meant to be easy for you to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. The people who are saying that likely don't realize how much of a difficult task that is. And the trouble is it sounds innocent enough on the tin, and it seems to make logical sense on the tin if you are able to do it naturally. The problem is you're not able to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full naturally. Even if you could hear your appetite cues, which we'll get onto in a moment, but let's say that you can even hear your appetite cues. Well, you'll be left in a position most likely where eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full is going to take a massive amount of willpower and force and analysis. And it'll likely go something like this. Am I hungry enough to eat? What is an appropriate level of hunger? Maybe I'm too hungry to eat. Am I full enough to stop eating? Should I stop eating now? Am I not quite yet full enough? So the first issue with this is that you might have been struggling so long in your relationship with food, with dieting, with binge eating, feeling out of control and the rest, that for while other people who have a healthy relationship with food understand completely what it means to be hungry enough to eat and full enough to stop eating, you might not even know what those levels are that would be appropriate for you to start and stop eating, right? The second issue with this bit of advice is it can easily be turned into a new rule for you to follow, a new diet for you to follow. I call it the hunger fullness diet. So it might sound really flexible and intuitive and self-caring on the tin: honor your hunger, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. But to you, you're firmly entrenched in rule-bound thinking, in rule land, in diet land. And if there's one thing that we know about having food rules, is that they create anxiety and preoccupation. And rules, when it comes to food, it fuels mental restriction and it fuels binge eating or spiraling or pendulum swinging, as I put it. But it's actually worse than that, in my opinion, because if you take on that advice of eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full, and it seems really healthy on the tin, and then you still end up thinking about food all the time, you still end up binge eating, that can easily, I see it all the time, that can easily further cement this narrative of there's something wrong with me, I just like food too much, I'm not normal with food, I can't be normal with food. Because you could be led to believe that the advice was good and the problem was you. And that is absolutely not fair and not true. The third issue, as I see it, with eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full is, what if you can't hear your appetite cues? If you don't have this sort of intuitive relationship with your appetite cues at the moment, then trying to take on this advice is surely only going to lead to a lot of analysis when it comes to eating. A lot of analysis, conscious analysis of your body cues, body scanning. Am I hungry enough? Am I satiated enough? What does that even mean? What does that even feel like? And if you're left sitting there analyzing your appetite cues and body sensations in such an intense way, that's not a healthy relationship with food. You know that, you feel that. And if this applies to you, then I'd like you to imagine that for other people who have a really healthy relationship with food that comes naturally to them, their relationship with hunger and satiety is very similar to their relationship with their breath. They just go about their day like you probably do most of the time, breathing in and out, don't have to think too much about it. You get the urge to breathe in, you get the urge to breathe out, and it's quite subconscious the vast majority of the time. You don't have to analyze when you're hungry enough to breathe in and when it's time to breathe out, right? The fourth issue with that advice of eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, completely negates the fact that you, or most people who are struggling with disordered eating, are trying to control their way of eating, to try to control their body. Very fixated on results, on the number and the scale, on measurements, for example. And the concept of eating in line with appetite cues can seem so abstract and almost like, well, completely giving up control. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what changes in your body are going to occur when you do that. So how could you have, as if you're still very attached to a particular body type for very valid reasons, but if you're still very attached to a particular body type, then you're not exactly going to be dancing off into the distance, like super confident to just follow your appetite cues, even if it were that easy for you to do, right? It would feel like stepping off of a cliff edge maybe, or stepping into anarchy. The fifth reason why eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full is terrible advice, in my opinion, is it also leaves absolutely no space for the grey area whatsoever. Even someone with a normal and healthy relationship with food. Sometimes they're going to eat past satiety. Sometimes they're going to eat when they're not hungry. Sometimes they're going to be in a meeting hungry and get more hungry than they usually would before they eat. And that's all okay. And that's all part of having a healthy relationship with food. But the problem is going to be that even if you want a healthy relationship with food, you're not going to be aware of what that gray area is. I'm imagining you're not going to have the confidence to sit in the gray area. And so you're left with that option of either turn it into a rule where it's like, I always eat when I'm hungry and I always stop when I'm full, which is, going to propagate more disordered eating. Or you're confronted with the challenge of trying to figure out on your own when it's okay to step outside of that and to maybe eat when you're not hungry. It's going to raise so many additional questions for you. Like, when is it okay to eat outside of physical hunger? When is it okay to emotionally eat? When is it okay to eat past satiety? And you're going to be left without answers to any of those questions. So you'll understandably get really confused and stressed, most likely, and then either just want to turn it back into a rule because that brings clarity, or stop doing it altogether. The sixth issue with eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full is a lot of people who've been struggling with disordered eating have their appetite all over the place. Even if they can hear their appetite cues or not, their appetite might be raised after so many years of dieting, restricting, and binge eating. It might be dysregulated, it might be unbalanced. And so even if someone were able to, most of the time, without using any willpower, eat when they're hungry and stop when they're satiated naturally, they might be confronted with, my gosh, but I seem to be naturally hungrier than other people. So does that mean that I shouldn't be doing this? Or my appetite seems to change with my cycle. It seems to go up and then go down. Is that normal? Is it okay to follow my appetite cues if my appetite's changing all of the time? And so again, without this sort of clarity and explanation given to someone who struggles with disordered eating, there's just going to end up being a lot of confusion, anxiety, and analysis, which again, it just feels like more disordered eating. And the last point that I want to make on this, even though I could talk for ages just on this topic alone, I'm very happy to. If you have questions, please do write them in the comment section. The last point I want to make on this is eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full is useless advice to someone that is struggling with disordered eating, because there will be very real reasons why you want to restrict, why you want to not honor your hunger, why you want to eat past satiety, why you want to emotionally eat or eat outside of physical hunger. And if those are not accounted for and addressed, it will continue to take willpower to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. In order to have a healthy relationship with food, there needs to be very little desire to emotionally eat, very little urge to emotionally eat. There needs to be very little desire to restrict. There needs to be very little desire to eat past satiety. Only then can someone honor their hunger cues most of the time without using willpower and have it come naturally to them. Anything else is just more rules, more analysis, more disordered eating. And so please, if you hear that advice, eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, I want you to know that it is not meant to be easy for you. If you run into trouble with it, it is not your fault. If you cannot do it, it is not meant to be simple or straightforward. It is such incomplete advice. And the message that I really want to get across is, firstly, maybe don't take that advice would be my invitation to you. And secondly, if you have taken that advice in the past and it hasn't worked out for you, please do not use it as further evidence that you are just naturally meant to struggle with food, that it's a you problem, that you're weak, that you just like food too much. Because the issue is not with you, it is with the incomplete, albeit I'm sure well-meaning, advice. And to put that into perspective, this is our definition of a healthy relationship with food. It means having a balanced physical appetite, which is appropriate for your body's needs. It means being able to hear the full range of your appetite cues from starving hungry to binge full, and to be able to respond to hunger and satiety most of the time without using willpower, just like how you know it's time to breathe in and out. It means you can enjoy any foods that you want to enjoy without a fear of losing control. It means having little urge to emotionally eat. It means trusting yourself fully around food, to the point that not trusting yourself around food seems completely ridiculous. It means having healthy control with food. So not this in control and not out of control, but healthy control. The ability to make peaceful decisions around food from a place of self-care. And it looks like, I kind of fancy some ice cream. Oh, but dinner's going to be in 45 minutes. So I'd like to be hungry for dinner, actually. All right, I'll leave the ice cream for now. I have dinner. If I fancy some ice cream after, then maybe I can. And you can do all of that without using any willpower. It means being able to eat freely. So going about your day, no tracking, no analyzing, no counting, no monitoring, eating freely without over or under eating in the big picture. I'm not talking about meal to meal. And it means tending more towards nourishing food because you want it, not because you think you should eat it. And very importantly, that all of this comes naturally to you. And if it's not coming naturally to you right now, know that that's okay. And a question that I invite you to consider is, what would need to change in order for all of that to come naturally to me? And there you'll hopefully see that it's less about what you're eating, when and how much, and far more about your relationship with food, the intention behind your eating choices, your mindset around food, the psychology that's making up your relationship with food. You don't need more rules. I imagine you need to change your relationship with food. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, I have so many videos on my channel that will offer additional insights on this topic. So you're very welcome to check those out. I'll also leave some popular ones linked down below for you. And as always, if you want to know how our clients do that transition from disordered eating to a healthy relationship with food, there's a free 1-hour lesson that summarizes that entire journey, which you can also access below as well if you're interested. Please let me know what questions or concerns or comments you have about this. Also, if you have any arguments against anything that I've said or any disagreements, then I want to hear those as well. This is a discussion. Leave all of your comments and questions down in the comments, and I look forward to receiving them, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.